Hey there, it's Dr. Brian here. It's Tuesday evening. I'm on the way home, and so rather than do something late, I thought I'd just do it in the car at Glenbrook. I've just got 40 minutes to get home, probably 30 actually. Sugar's with me. She's breathing loudly. There she is. She's just got her tongue out, doing a bit of extra breathing. So what I thought I'd speak to you about today, that's better. Hope you don't feel sick now. I was doing some research today looking at a lot of current research that actually has a relationship with posture, particularly head carriage. Is it over your shoulders or is it forward? And then what are the implications for health on current research? Well, actually say accumulated research around what that does. Now, some of the research goes back to the 50s, and it comes out of the Harvard it was the American Medical Association journal, saying that when the head moved forward, it changed a whole lot of things, including digestion and osteoporosis and foot dysfunction. And we know that's true. So when the head's forward, it does change the centre of gravity point, because basically the head wants to sit over the feet. But if the head's forward, it'll almost have the head now not over the heel, but moving to the forefoot, and that will change your weight distribution. These research papers and observations were not really aiming to understand the why of everything, but we're just noting significant relationships. Are they causal? I guess someone can look at that, but they're definitely associated. And association isn't necessarily causation, but if you've got enough, if the data set is big enough, if you've got 500 people and you're seeing this pattern predominantly, everything else being equal, it then becomes significant. So what that means for all of us is our posture is really important. And what's interesting is that it is not fundamentally self-correcting. It won't get better if you do nothing about it. In fact, it gets progressively worse. So these studies were all looking at the implications for health, longevity, and well-being, you could say. So I'm really interested I put together a document which is nearly finished, which actually looks at the relationship between, looks at all of these research papers with references as to what their key findings were. And at the end of that, if you thought that where your head sat relative to your shoulders, like ear over tip of shoulder, if you thought that that wasn't important, then I'm not sure what to say, because the evidence is pretty compelling. So what do we do about it? Well, there's numerous tips and tools that we can offer. I think the first thing from an individual stance is to realize that there's something worth paying attention to and doing work with, and sometimes modifying how we spend our day, breaking the day up so that we're not in the same posture and position for extended times. So there's really a lot to look at in that regard. But I was really intrigued to see that there is so much research and information talking about what head posture and neck posture does. So physiologically, one of the reasons it's important, and this is, if you like, creating a physiological, biological link into the why it would be important, is that as your head moves forward, it actually changes the tension on the spinal cord, and actually may stretch the spinal cord, which hates being stretched, up to 3 centimeters. Now that's a lot. That's around that much. Now 3 centimeters in a non-elastic tissue is actually a lot, and it has to get that it has to get that from somewhere. So it'll often drag the brain down inside the skull. It'll actually cause tension on the meninges, which is the layer between the skull and the brain, the membrane. And so you've got a few layers. So you've got the dura mater that encompasses the brain, and the whole spinal cord right down to the coccyx, to your tailbone. And we know, I went to a seminar many years ago where that actually worked out that if you had forward head carriage and a loss of neck curve, you were much more likely to have a pain lower down, which is really interesting. So partly because the spinal cord's and the nerve bundle is being pulled up, and then it's more likely to catch or drag on something through the hip region because it's very full and complex. And wet lab, there was a lot going on down there. We took the intestines out and looked at the mesenteric layer and all of that magnificent architecture when we were in wet lab, and then it was lunchtime and we couldn't get it back in. It was like trying to put a map back into a folded up box or Christmas decorations back in the box. So we quickly put the sheet over it and went to lunch and left a lab technician to sort it out. But let's just say that the abdomen is full. There's not a lot of spare space. When you add gravity and the load, there's often quite a lot of compression, and if you're carrying extra weight, there's extra load and mass through the whole gut that's actually dragging further down. So what to do? Stand up straight, chest up, shoulders back. Now here's an interesting thing. I hear a lot of people talking about where to hold your pelvis and how to create lordosis, or whether you'd have a flat back. You know, the body's meant to have three curves: a neck curve, a thoracic curve, and a lumbar curve, and they create that S, which is slightly stretched, is creating sort of like a suspension. So when they're straight, it's rigid, and now it's jarring. And so the lumbar should have a curve. It's designed to have a curve, and that actually allows the weight to be distributed evenly through the spine, so it's not all loading up into one disc and causing a problem. So yes, but what I've found is easiest for most people to relate to is, so here's my hot tip, something for you. If you feel that your head could be further back and you want to change your posture, start with focusing on lifting your chest. So chest out, and then stomach goes in, shoulders back, and then knees braced. So it's a military term: chest out, stomach in, shoulders back. And if you just focus on lifting your chest, everything else folds into line. You really don't need to spend a lot of time trying to do the rest. So there's my hot tip: chest out, stomach in. Okay, I will run away. I've had my 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and love to speak to you, and trust all is well. Speak to you soon. Bye.